What's the worst way you've been embarrassed by a child? I had some people over, and my 4-year-old nephew starts shouting, "Is anyone here afraid of spiders?" Once he had everyone's attention. He told us all that if anyone was afraid of spiders they needed to leave, because he found cobwebs. And cobwebs mean spiders. He then proceeded to point out every single cobweb in the house to our guests. My friend's 5-year-old came over the other week and started pulling things and dust out from underneath the couch and told me I didn't clean well enough, haha. Then he opened up our linen closet and told me it smelled bad. When my sister was 9 she shouted white power while waiting in line at Dorney Park. We are Hispanic. OMG Dorney Park. What a shout out. My child was 3 while we were waiting in a doctor's office. An exquisitely dressed elderly woman was sitting next to us and started talking to my son. Kid is fascinated by all the sparkly jewels and such and says, "I love your shiny necklace and your yellow teeth." My daughter said she loves my Mill's wrinkly neck because it's soothing to play with while she cuddles. I died, but my Mill laughed and said, "Oh well, now I like it too." Sometimes the awful things they say can give you a different perspective, I guess. I'm still mortified. My niece told my grandma she loves her crinkly skin. Thank God my grandma didn't speak fluent 3-year-old and had no idea what she said. I just translated that she said she loves you. I have PCOS, which causes me to grow facial hair. I don't mean little whiskers. If I were to let it grow, I'd have a beard. Anyways, one day, my friend's daughter 4 at the time was sitting on my lap just touching my face when she yells, "Why do you have hair on your face?" I didn't know what to say. It's a huge insecurity of mine, and I almost cried. I just smiled. I think she realized that it hurt me because she just pushed her face into my neck. She's actually a very emotionally intelligent little girl. And gave me a big hug. She looked like she was going to cry too. I know everyone notices it because although I shave, I have very dark hair and very light skin, so you can still see stubble. It just hurts for anyone to point it out. In the same PCOS boat with you. Very aware of my hair and try to keep it under control, but it's hard and such an insecurity that I'm constantly aware of. I call this tale shot at a funeral. And to be fair, I guess I'm to blame as well. My son's then 3 great uncle had died and we were at the burial. Lots of older, religious relatives. When the priest started reading the Lord's Prayer, my son let out the loudest, longest, wettest sounding fart ever. I lost it. I tried so hard not to laugh, but I just turned red and that made me cough, which made me laugh. The priest stopped the prayer and shot me daggers. I composed myself, and he continued. Then my kid ripped another fart, but this time he got this horrified look in his eye and whispered, "Not a fart." And I lost it again. I laughed so hard that my knees started to buckle and I had to excuse myself to bring my 3-year-old to the car for a change of pants and to explain the word shart. That's one way to lighten the mood. Reminds me of the time my whole family was at my aunt's funeral and my grandpa was standing over with my grandma and my aunt, and all of a sudden he farts. Then he starts laughing and trying to walk away and farts with every step he takes. OMG, we all started laughing. It did brighten the mood. I'll always remember that. He's also gone now too, so it's an extra special memory. My 3-year-old son was with me in masses at a jewelry counter. I asked the clerk a question. My son asked, "Why does she have such a huge mark on her cheek?" The color raining out of my face. I quickly recovered and said, "That's where God kissed her." The woman said, "Congratulations. That's the best one I've heard so far." Sorry if it's obvious, but what was the mark? Probably a birthmark. My niece had a very large red mark on her forehead when she was born. Luckily for her, it either disappeared or it moved up to her hairline. Growing up with something like that can't be easy. I was at work. I worked at the movie theater in my late teens at the ticket booth. A young girl came up with her mom and was like, "EWW mom, she's so ugly." Talking about me. She had to have been between 5 to 7. Her mom hit her and promptly apologized. And the little girl was like, "What? She is." I felt like utter speep the rest of the day. In my teens, I had a 7-year-old come up to me at a fast food and ask, "Excuse me, what peep are you?" For a 16-year-old guy, it was a bit of a gut punch. Oof. Made myself lunch yesterday. 2 sandwiches because one wouldn't cut it. My 8-year-old asked me if I was a bear eating to get ready for hibernation. Sick burn. I was on a plane trip with my 3-year-old. He used the tiny restroom than I did. There was a line. I thought I'd secured the door but hadn't. He slings the door open to tell me something he was excited about. There I sat in open humiliation for all the line to see. I had to convince him to let me shut the damn door. So what did he want to tell you? About how he accidentally opened the emergency door and mom flew out. When I was 4, I kissed the delivery man on the lips from the local Chinese restaurant. In front of my entire family. My mother told me to never do it again. I was embarrassed by myself, so it counts. I wonder what that guy felt like. Probably very flustered. My daughter watched me put a pad on one day. I wear some pretty giant pads. Out in public she was telling everyone mommy is wearing a diaper today. Holy speep, you win. The youth choir at church was rehearsing music for Christmas Eve services. The text of one piece began with, "Here betwixt ass and oxen mild," referring to the baby lying in a manger. One boy said, "I'd rather be between 2 asses than oxen." I wasn't embarrassed by a child. I was the child. My parents were extremely racist. As such, growing up I developed a lot of the same tendencies. I really didn't know any better. I had no hate in my heart for anyone, but because that's what I saw and heard all the time, I thought that's just the way things were. One day a black guy comes over and is talking to my dad about getting his car worked on. Not long ago my dad did some work for another guy also black and the guy ended up stiffing him on payment. My dad went into a racist tirade and said he's not working on any more at %RS cars. So I, being the innocent child that I was, reminded him word for word, in front of the black guy, "You said you weren't working on any more at RS cars." That was the day I learned what racism was, and that it was bad. What are they like now? Those guys are still black. I had a 5-year-old ask me why I was white, lol. I mean, clearly she was just trying to understand the world around her and some things she might be hearing adults say. But it was still embarrassing, especially since I was the only white person in the room. Her dad luckily just quickly changed the subject, lol. I had that from a student once. "Are you brown?" "No." "Why not?" My 4 years old and I were waiting in line to grab a shopping cart at Walmart when she yells as loud as possible to the crowd of many, "Daddy, we are at the people zoo you talk about all the time, right? But also proud, I hope." Honesty is part of our core family values. I don't remember this story, but my mom tells it all the time. When I was 5, my mom took me into the stall in the women's restroom because she had to go. She had been in there a while, and the bathroom had been crowded, so she asked me, "Mindful muser, can you take a look and see if there is a big line out there?" I excitedly screamed, "A lion," and flung the stall door open. There was a big line. What happened when you couldn't find the lion? I darted out of the stall looking for him. I don't remember this. When I was very young too. 3 My dad took to the toilet, and when he was peeing I shouted, "Wow dad, your will is massive." And a load of people started laughing. Must have been proud. My 3-year-old child screaming help, help, as I'm carrying him to the car in the Walmart parking lot because he threw a temper tantrum in the middle of the store. My middle kid, he could scream like a soul in torment if he wasn't getting his way. How nobody called the police is a mystery. Got him to the car, sat him in his seat, and put on his tunes, and a few minutes later he was calmed down except for the occasional sniffles. Happened to my wife too once, and a lady got in her face and demanded to know why she was abusing the child. No Karen. We are taking the child out of the situation so he can calm down. This is called good parenting. Now he's a lumbering kid of 15 and one of the most chill teenagers I know. My daughter hated the car seat. I would be trying to load her in the car with her screaming and crying no. No. Eventually I would have to manhandle her in there. It's always fun when people stop to stare at you. That would be my eldest. He would fight and struggle the whole time until he was strapped and then try to escape. We had to use extra restraints for his own safety. He would then scream and crying the entire journey. He's 18 now. He still hates traveling and whines when it's longer than an hour or so.